Okay, everyone, welcome to Real Mob Stories. This is your host, James Proctor. I'm happy today to have a special guest, Rob Van Dam. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic, as I like to say, and often flies over people's heads, as I
Hmm.
do as well. Very good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. It's interesting. I don't know, about 6 to 9 months ago, I noticed that you had subscribed to the channel. It something in the analytics or the YouTube studio. You could see, like, I don't think it tells you everyone that subscribes, but I know that you have a pretty good following. So I think if you have a certain number of people or a big following or whatever, it lets you know. And anyway, I saw that you had subscribed, and I wasn't sure if it was really you at first, but then when I looked and saw you had, I don't know, 40, 50,000 followers, I knew that it had to have been you. And so I know that you went on with my former partner Lee Cole on his show Wrestling with the Devil, right?
Yes, I did, and yeah, he recommended that we do this. And
Yeah.
unlike Lee, you don't normally do wrestling, so I'm not sure how much you know about it. I believe I'm soon to find out.
Hmm.
But I always like to reach outside of our little universe anyway,
Hmm.
to the real people.
Yeah. No, no, I really appreciate and I've enjoyed. We've had a few phone calls and conversations, and you're definitely very intelligent. I mean, if most people know who you are, but some people may not. So, could you let people know a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I am a professional wrestler for 35 years now. And so I've been wrestling for every company pretty much, and pretty much all over the world. I mentioned earlier to James when we were on the phone that my last trip to Japan, Masa, who we all know in the business, the wrestling fan Masa, told me that was my 22nd or 23rd time coming to Japan since I started in February of '93. So that was interesting. But there's a lot of travel with it, and I'm not doing it full time. When I was full time, it was a long run of 300 days of travel a year being on the road. And now I'm just independently doing my own thing, which we're always independent contractors anyway. That comes up a lot of times, and people think that's a bad thing, but not for me. I've always been one to swim upstream anyway. I'm known as one of a kind, and I always am finding that I have the rare or unique perspective when I open up people's brains and start having deep conversations.
Yeah.
And so I celebrate that, and I appreciate it, and the fans appreciate that I'm different. I'm now a Hall of Famer from
Hmm.
2021, former world champion, and my accolades go on and on and on.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Still
and
wrestling, still wrestling. By the way, not nearly as much. My last few matches were on TV. Were on AEW, which the fans are familiar with, and that was in April. And I stay busy anyway. I'm always at least as busy as I want to be, and then a little bit. I said that
yeah.
for years. Still am.
No, that's great. And I think when so you started off, you did martial arts, right? You trained in martial arts when you were younger, right? You probably still do, but
So I got into that actually by wanting to wrestle.
mm,
So I was a fan, just like anybody, of the action movies, and we used to have Chop Socky Theater on
hmm,
Saturday nights, I think it was, and I would imitate what I would see on TV. So I taught myself to run up a tree and do a backflip because
yeah,
I'd seen it, and I would imitate that stuff. But once I got bit by the wrestling bug, that was just totally what I wanted to focus my life on.
right.
And yeah, there was a group of four of us that were like minded, and we would get together on Monday nights at one of the kids' houses. We called it the Robert Dome, and we would throw the cushions from the couch on the
Yeah.
floor. Yeah, yeah, that kind of. And but we found out eventually, man, there's a ring in town, and I'm from a small town. That was big news. You know, this guy has an actual ring in his yard. We have to meet him. We have to get that ring. It's a dream come true. So we went and knocked on his door and told him, you know, we're gonna be wrestlers when we grow up. And we're working on the you know, right now on the living room floor, and the guy ended up being a kickboxing promoter, and he liked us, he liked the idea, and he said, we don't do wrestling, I do boxing, kickboxing, and he said, you know, if you guys show up and work out with my guys, and we would do that and stretch and then go through the drills, spar afterwards, then the wrestlers could have the ring afterwards, even though we were tired. So that's how I got into doing both, and I was excelling at both, you know, and I was the best out of all of us at kickboxing. I was knocking everybody out, and I was learning that I could really take, you know, a solid. I was durable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And so at one point, I thought maybe I would go either way. I entered a tough man contest. This was a little later, but in well, I was 19, just turned 19 1 month ago, and I was in the tough man contest at Kalamazoo, 1990, and I took runner up, so second place, and it was you know, 2 weight classes. So I was too big. Sorry, I keep rubbing my nose. People are gonna think I'm doing cocaine.
Oh God. Yeah.
The weight classes were such that at 190 pounds, I was in the heavyweights with the big guys, you know. But anyway, I supplemented kickboxing by taking a little bit of a bunch of different arts. Never stuck with one martial art, and called that my own, and made, you know, went through the ranking system.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. Plus, it's you know, to be runner up. Think about that, 19 to be runner up. That's pretty impressive because, you know, you're still growing to a point, and so there's people, you know, I'm sure that in their prime, you know, they're like 28 to 32, 35 or whatever, and so to be able to be a runner up at that age and not be competing in those type of competition, that's pretty impressive, you know.
Yeah, thanks. I my ego didn't let me celebrate it though. The way I remember it, the main event was so close. There was only one. There was only one knockdown, if you want to call it that, and it was a big dude, Emmanuel Rodriguez, and he was 350 pounds, and he'd been in like 24 of these. Did it. He traveled around and went in the bad man and tough man contest. So he was a veteran. I should have realized how well I did, but I remember thinking like, man, you know, he stepped on my foot, and I fell, and I did a back somersault and got to my feet, and the referee gave me an 8 count, and I felt screwed by that, and that was the only down, and so afterwards I remember like being, instead of being in a celebratory mood like I should have been, I remember like I was so mad at myself because my ego was saying, "Man, you could have won that. It was, you know, it was so close." And oh man, and I remember that big guy. Like I didn't get it back then, but he was like, "You did good, kid. You should be proud of yourself." And I was like, "I just know I could have done better." And I've grown so much now, having a much bigger picture of life as we do, that when I look back. Well, whenever you grow, you look back at a lesser you. But when I look back at that little asshole, you know, what an ego I had to say that to the guy that won, to say like, "Ooh, I could have got first," you know, like. But it was a bunch of testosterone and people that were, it was that kind of environment.
No, that's really cool. And you grew up in Battle Creek? Is that where you were born, in Battle Creek, Michigan?
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Born and raised, yeah. So it was not a very big city. Nobody from Battle Creek knew anybody famous.
Oh,
so,
I see.
Yeah, so to dream of being on the other side of the television screen was really far-fetched.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, sure, just go to Hollywood High School where all the actors go. You know, it wasn't like that. It was more like, yeah, right, you're going to be a pro wrestler, like you better have a plan B.
Yeah, but you've been able to do this for 35 years and you're still in it. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you've
think
done
I did
something
all
right.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember I told my dad because he was really supportive, but I had
Mhm.
a scholarship
Mhm.
for. I always thought it was Michigan State, but I just saw an interview that he did years
Mhm.
ago. A&E did a documentary, a bio on me that aired somewhat recently. And anyway, they had old footage of my dad. He's been gone since 2016.
Right.
And I might have learned something new because he said my scholarship was for Western, not for Michigan State. And that blows my
Oh,
mind because I've always said Michigan State. Now I wonder. But
mm,
either way, he wanted me to go to college, of course, like any parent should.
yeah.
And I mean, as opposed to, following a crazy dream like joining the circus or becoming a pro wrestler. And
Right.
anyway, I said, Dad, just, give me 2 years. And within 2 years, I will know if it's for me or not. And then
Right.
I'll still be young enough to go back to college. And so that's what we agreed upon.
Mhm.
And it wasn't too far into it that I had people telling me that I was really good and that I was going to be a world champion someday. So stuff like that,
Yeah.
encouraging work.
No, that's really good. And so what we're going to do today is, a lot, like I said, a lot of people know about, your accolades and everything. And one of the things that, as we talked, that was just really fascinating is that you have an interest in history and, the mob and so you know quite a bit about it. You have a lot of knowledge, and so you're living in Las Vegas right now, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
how did you get involved in, your interest in organized crime, and then, maybe let people know how that kind of evolved into you being part of the organized crime, the mob museum that they have out there.
Um, so so basically, the whole genre and information intake that I get from it
Hmm.
satisfies and fulfills a part inside of me that's a real nerd. You know,
Right.
so like, yeah, I was way into comic books as a kid.
Hmm.
I loved Greek mythology.
Yeah.
There was very few subjects I was that passionate about, and then had to go way above and beyond the rest of the class and do all my own research and learn everything I could about the subject. And
Right.
I was getting into that way with Hollywood history. I was living in LA,
Hmm.
and I was actually doing a movie that was at the old CBS studios on
Yeah.
Sunset and Gower Studios.
Hmm.
Uh, which is kitty corner from the Blondeau Tavern, where they filmed the very first movie in Hollywood. The short,
Hmm.
um, full length was at the Paramount
Right.
lot with the trailer. But so I just walking around seeing the old posters in the Stooges, the Three Stooges, and
Hmm.
even like Married with Children. Hey, I used to watch that. That was filmed here, and seeing all the sets.
Hmm.
It fascinated me, and I really was into Hollywood history, and the mobsters were a big part of that.
Yeah.
Mickey Cohen owned places,
Hmm.
on Sunset Boulevard, and really, in particular, and I learned this from doing, I guess, one of the tours when I first moved to LA. One of the
Hmm.
tours they drive you around, and there was a big ass castle right by Lake Hollywood. Most people don't even know about Lake Hollywood, but
Yeah.
underneath the Hollywood sign, if you're up there, you can see this lake reservoir under it, and these
Hmm.
big houses by that have like the one of the coolest spots in Los Angeles that exists. Like you wouldn't even know you're in LA. You would think you're in Europe or something if you
Oh,
lived there.
wow.
It's
Wow.
amazing. And one of these is a 9-story castle. It's called Castillo del Lago, Castle
Hmm.
Lake, and its history includes Bugsy Siegel used to own it back in the 30s, and they said that he ran a gambling out of there, and there was like there was no way to get to the house from the road, and he
Hmm.
had like this escape thing planned out, and later on Madonna owned it, and
Hmm.
Madonna security shot some fan that was climbing up the wall. It was a striped wall and castle, so it really stood out, and
Right.
it was something, you know, that I enjoyed knowing about, so I could show off and tell everyone, like, dude, you
Hmm.
know about this? And
Hmm.
but Bugsy Siegel went from L.A. also to Las Vegas, you know, and
Right.
ran the El Cortez downtown
Hmm.
in before the Flamingo and 46,
Right.
and my interest did that too, and I've just been so fascinated with the whole genre.
Hmm.
So it's my go-to and has been for a long time.
Yeah.
It used to be that I'd seen all the documentaries and thought I'd read all the books, but the last
Hmm.
few years, now there's so much more out there that that's impossible now, because there's like a flood of
Hmm.
AI made documentaries on everything and everybody. But it's
Yeah.
cool, and so yeah, I'm a facts guy, so I like numbers and
Right.
uh, dates and stuff like that, and I hate it when I get that stuff wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Vegas, you know, by the way, um, in Las Vegas, Bugsy gets credit for founding it,
Hmm.
mostly because of the movie Bugsy with Warren Beatty,
Yeah.
where he's with the Mickey Cohen character looking at an empty desert saying,
Hmm.
can't you just imagine it? And because of that, a lot of people think that the whole strip was his idea, but that was actually hotel number 3, because
Hmm.
we already had the Frontier, and oh man, I just had this on my tongue before. I'll get back to what the
Yeah.
first one was. Damn, the road's named it Rancho, El Rancho.
Rancho. Hmm. Oh wow. So and it
You
got
know that, right? And it wasn't even Billy. It wasn't even his idea. You know that, right? The
right.
Flamingo.
Right.
Yeah, Billy Wilkerson. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that early on that that was part of it was that it was I don't know what year, it must have been the 30s maybe when when the first two were out there, but I guess a lot of it was about being able to have legalized gambling. I think the state allowed it in certain areas, or I don't know if it was the whole state, but there's a lot of history just involved in how gambling was actually legalized in Las Vegas,
Right. They
or in
legalized.
Nevada.
Yeah, in 1931 it was legalized here, and then that's pretty much when we started seeing the traffic of organized crime taking advantage of that. And then you know, in 76 when Atlantic City legalized gambling, that was supposed to be like the East Coast version of Las Vegas, which never really took off the same.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody was here. You know, Meyer Lansky was here early on and had the Thunderbird and
Yeah.
the Tropicana. You know, there's stories. They just, by the way, they're gonna implode the Tropicana in a few days
Oh, really?
on October 9th. So maybe even might even be before this airs. I don't know, but that's everyone knows the story when Vito Genovese failed at his assassination attempt on Frank Costello, and
Yeah.
it shot him along the head. He got
Hmm.
It was a slip in his pocket at the hospital that they found, that was the earnings from the Tropicana Hotel in '57, because it had just opened up. And
Right.
we went there during an acquisition sale recently, my wife and I, and
Hmm.
we bought a bunch of tall fake trees and a couple of
Hmm.
uh, random stuff like trash cans with the Tropicana name on it, and the cabanas, and wanted to get that piece of history, but they're about to implode it. You know,
What are they going to do with the
baseball,
property?
baseball,
Baseball.
yeah,
Oh, for the
for the
baseball for the
A's.
A's. Okay.
Yeah, Vegas is really happening out here. We're the
Yeah.
tech capital of the West. We're going to be the
Yeah.
sports capital of the West. The movie studios are moving here, and it's just it's really growing. So
No, that's really cool. And then how did you get kind of hooked up with the Mob Museum? Was
oh,
that something that started when you? It's not that old, is it?
no, I think it was 2010,
Yeah.
maybe 2009, somewhere around there that it opened up. 2008
Yeah.
at the earliest. But anyway, I loved it, and I used to go there. I wasn't living here full time yet. I was bouncing back and forth from LA,
Mhm.
and I used to, but it was always empty when I was there. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it'd be really overstating to say I helped them. Maybe I just wasted their time. But
Huh.
but I had this idea, and I wanted to do like a trivia night just because I love having conversations like this,
Yeah.
and I wanted to, have like-minded people gather there
Mhm.
once a week, whatever. And I was gonna go get like, like bullshit prizes, 2-for-1
Mhm.
coupons or whatever, whatever I could get. And I was
Mhm.
working on arrange that. I had a few meetings with a lady that was some kind of a manager,
Yeah.
and we met a couple times, and I was working on that, and then all of a sudden, and I don't know exactly what year this was, but it was Valentine's Day,
Mhm.
and there was a line out the door, like whatever they promoted about having the wall from Al Capone's.
Oh, yeah, the wall for the I think
Yeah,
for Manson.
ever since then, whenever I go there, it seems like they're doing great. So I
Mm.
just dropped the idea completely and never hit them back. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they every time I'm there, they got like four floors of
Mhm.
because the bottom one is a bar, which is they didn't always have that, but they've had that a couple of years at least now anyway. And
Mhm.
yeah, every time I'm there, there's so many people. I'm like, they don't need me. But I was such a geek that I would the tour ends in the gift shop, and I
Mhm.
used to stand there and
Mhm.
uh, and just have conversation when people would come through. I'd ask them if they liked it and what they liked about it or whatever.
Mhm.
And they thought I
And did
worked.
they recognize you?
Some did, some didn't. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that's just cool though. And so the Mob Museum, where's that located at in Vegas for those
It's
that want to go there?
yeah, it's downtown
Mhm.
on Stewart Street, a couple blocks off of Fremont. It's the old courthouse, so that's part of the history. Is you can sit in there, and they have a courtroom set up allegedly like it used to be, and you can watch on the screen, and they have footage of the Kefauver hearings, so you can
Oh yeah.
that while you're there. And also they do other things in that room, like when they have authors come in or special guests. And but it's yeah, it's pretty cool. I really thought that I would be down there all the time when I finally moved here, but
Yeah.
once that happened, I really became a homebody. Like I heard,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
almost like I have a phobia of leaving home. Unless I go to work, you can usually
Mhm.
find me at home.
What made you relocate from Los Angeles to Las Vegas?
Well, two things. One of them is that I always wanted to. I was always drawn to Las Vegas. I've always thought it was such a cool city. I like how we're in the middle of the desert, but then it's like a little paradise that's all
Yeah.
compacted into just like if you go more than 10 miles one way or the other, you're going out of town. I mean, it's so
Mhm.
small. It's so and here I am standing under mist, drinking a pina colada, looking at hot
Mhm.
girls in the pool, and dancing,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, man, what's not to love about this? But like I said, I hardly ever leave home now. But it's hope, like it's like
Mhm.
people are here whether they're hoping to have a good time at party or get laid or having a good convention
Mhm.
or score when they're gambling. It's like it
Mhm.
just feels like a lot of people come here, with hopes and possibilities, and I like that vibe. The other thing was divorce. That's what it finally took for me to be able to move here because the evil ex didn't want to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then and who and the thing, a couple of things just about Vegas. Have you met any of the special guests that have came over to the Mob Museum? Have you talked to any of the guests that they brought in? I know they bring in authors and different people.
Yeah. We were there when David. Um, no, I'm just blanking on his name. The guy from Scream, the actor,
Mhm.
David Arquette. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
David.
right when I went to say that, it disappeared.
Yeah.
Anyway, David Arquette was there. And we already knew him though, you know what I mean? So he
Hmm.
was like, he's such a big wrestling fan that he was acting shy and giggling and stuff just because I was in the crowd and pointing, telling the other actors who I was. But he did that movie, you know, about the Appalachian,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Summit
fiasco.
or what? Yeah, yeah, the fiasco there.
I
Yeah.
went there for the screening of that, and I went there when the
Hmm.
guys that made the Mob on the Run documentary when
Hmm.
they were there, and yeah, a few times I've made it down there. I should make it more. For some reason, my mail seems to not give me most of every time I sign up on the mailing list, I have some issues. It might be me,
Hmm.
but I don't see, the only time I ever see anything from the Mob Museum in my mailbox is if I check spam, which is kind of rare for me to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably something simple, but everything's hard for me sometimes.
No, no, that makes sense. And then I guess, and then just a couple of days ago, Pete Rose died. The baseball star, and I know that he used to hang out. I believe he had a place on the Strip, right, where he would. I don't know if I don't think you follow baseball, right? But
No, but I am. I actually, we had the same agent at one time,
hmm.
or you know, it was my agent's son that was doing Pete. But actually, they brought me into Las Vegas when Pete was doing that,
Hmm.
and he had two locations at that time. One was the shirt or the sporting goods store that was in the
Yeah.
mall. I think it was at
Hmm.
Caesars, right?
Yeah.
And he was making a killing from what I understand. And and anyway, the agent was talking to them about me coming in on days that he wasn't there or whatever. And I did like a little trial thing. And this was before I was even in WWE. It was so long ago. It
Oh wow.
must have been late '90s because I
Yeah.
was in WWE since 2001. But anyway, I just remember, you know, like what I made was such a drop in the bucket to what they were telling me he was making on a daily basis. And it
Mm.
was that we tagged in it, you know, one time he was there signing, you know, and I met him and told him of the plan, you know, like he was there. I don't know if he was there every day, but he was killing it. Whatever, however many days a week he was there. One
Yeah.
idea was for me to go in, and then after just doing like a day of it or whatever, that idea fell apart. One of
Yeah.
many. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so we're the I guess was he still doing stuff in Vegas when he died?
I hadn't heard his name in a long time, so
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that he wasn't though. You know, I
yeah,
could have just been out of touch with whatever it is that he's doing, but I don't know.
yeah.
I
I
know
know
those
one.
that store wasn't there anymore that used to have them, from what I
Hmm.
understand.
Right.
So there's that. Yeah.
His last interviews was with Joey Merlino,
Wow.
and yeah, and so he's really been doing well, and it's kind of I don't know what your thoughts are on Joey Merlino. So you have a guy that's a mob boss with the Philly crime family for many years. He gets pinched, goes to jail a couple of times, but basically from '94 up until, depending on who says what, he was boss until either this year or maybe anytime like 2018 to the present. So anyway, we know he is probably boss at least until 2018, and so he is now on YouTube with a podcast, and so he does mostly talking about you know
Sport.
gambling picks, sports. He has guests, but then he'll talk about informants because he had a lot of informants that testified against him. So he doesn't like the informants. But what do you think of a former boss now? So now we're in 2024. We have someone that was part of the mob that's now got a podcast on YouTube and Patreon.
Well, I think, you know, he's definitely got a gimmick. You know, one thing that makes him stand out
Hmm.
because he's the only guy, I believe, that didn't flip and just did his time,
Yeah.
and then is like still out there being himself. So, you know, it's amazing. I like his podcast.
Hmm.
but I don't know much about sports, and that's what he normally talks about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what surprises people. They'd think that you'd be a sports nut, but you're more of you're more introverted. I mean, you're outgoing and energetic, but you're
I'm
also got
definitely
an
introverted.
introverted side. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely an introvert, and it's funny because I'm a longtime marijuana advocate, and
Right.
I would say my wrestling character isn't much different from the real me,
Hmm.
but maybe not quite as intelligent. More like, hey, dude, let's just all get along, bro. And people think all the time that I'm like one of the top guys in a bucket list they'd want to hang out with. But I think that I think if I was normal people, I would consider myself quite boring,
Hmm.
because I'm very stoic
Hmm.
and not just by nature, but also as a practiced behavior.
Hmm.
It just all goes together, and it's very conducive to the way that I want to live. So, you're not going
Right.
to see me out there on the dance floor. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine, like what,
Yeah.
why would I do that? But there's a
Right.
lot of things like that. You probably don't meet too many people that don't get music, but I
Hmm.
would say I don't get music to the extent that most people do. Like it's such a
Right.
big part of everyday life, from your phone
Hmm.
ringing, your alarm,
Hmm.
even if it's another form of entertainment like wrestling. You hear
Right.
music at the opening of the show, at the opening of the matches, and it's just everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And I don't subscribe to it with my life the way most people do. And
Hmm.
so that makes me feel like an outsider, because I see the way people are just like, man, let me just turn the radio on when I'm driving. And not only does it not move me the way that it does most, and I feel the energy. I picked
Hmm.
my music to come out to the ring to because I really felt it. And I get that, but
Hmm.
it's weird. I feel like people are like, this reminds me of the way I feel. And that's,
Hmm.
kind of basic thinking, but also, and I think everyone I would probably agree with this, but music is at least distracting your subconscious, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
If
And
not more, if not
yeah,
more,
that's true. And
not
I guess
control,
what's that?
if not controlling us.
Yeah. No, I mean it is. I mean that's why that like at the sporting events, that's why you have wrestling matches. Why music is such a big part of that because of how it opens up the emotional, maybe the subconscious part of it. But it's it really allows an emotional outlet.
I feel like for most people, though, it's everything to them, or
Hmm.
at least part of everything, and yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, like
and
some
that's true.
songs, but I like some songs, but
Hmm.
I'm the only concert I would go to is like if I'm supporting friends of mine, or I'm chaperoning or something. But I'm the boring guy standing against the wall,
Hmm.
not even nodding my head to the rhythm or anything, because that makes me feel silly.
Yeah, and probably as an introvert, do you ever feel that when you're around crowds and a lot of the energy, does it drain you after a while? Do you
Man,
feel?
since you bring it up,
Yeah.
um, a friend of mine got a star on the Las Vegas Walk of Fame, a magician. Well,
Hmm.
Jeremy Cambridge. Very proud. Um, Great to know him. It was a cool event. He had an after party afterwards at a bar that was south on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I drove out there. It took probably, I don't know, 25 minutes or so
Hmm.
to drive out there. And I
Yeah.
walked in and I just felt so uncomfortable
Hmm.
because there was so everything like it was like it made me feel like I need a therapist, because I literally walked out after like 5 seconds. I let two people see me
Oh.
there, and I
Hmm.
literally left because I was just like, I don't know these people, but it's
Hmm.
set up so that I have to pick an empty seat next to somebody, and they're all talking and they're enjoying socializing.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that as much, because a
Hmm.
lot of people can't relate to. So what do you do for a living? If they don't know, then I'm
Hmm.
like, oh God, I don't want to talk about that, but
Yeah.
and it was like I looked at the bar and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get served because there's like 3 lines of
Mhm.
people that are like 4 or 5 deep, and if
Mhm.
people don't recognize me, I don't know how to get served. That's something I always like. If they ignore me at a bar, I can only go so long before my ego blows up and says, I'm not invisible, damn it, I don't deserve this. Yeah, I have all
Yeah.
kinds of social disorders, probably, but yeah, since you mentioned it, I walked out and
Mhm.
and just left, and then I felt really weird about myself.
No, no, I know what you mean, and so yeah, and then wanted to get your thoughts on one on wrestling and the mob. And so the big story is, I mean, one, obviously, if you go back, you had Lenny Montana, the guy played Luca Brasi on the Godfather. He was the Lenny Montana, and so he was a wrestler, and but he was also an actual associate in the Colombo family, and then you had Adolfo Bresciano, who's Dino Bravo, and and so what do you think about those stories, especially Dino Bravo, being a wrestler, because he kind of he wrestled for what until he's like 42, 43. My understanding is that Vince McMahon didn't want him to continue, and so he had a lifestyle where he needed a lot of money to support himself and his wife and all that. And so he goes up. His uncle was Vic Controni, the head of the Montreal mob, and then he's married to the niece, and so ends up he gets into cigarette smuggling, and then my understanding was that some guys wanted him to, apparently he was going to Indian reservations, and he kind of had a big market in that because they knew of him as a wrestler, and so he was able to get a large, basically, a lot of cigarettes, and that he was making all that money through basically not paying taxes and being able to sell them illegally, contraband cigarettes. Anyway, these guys that were selling cocaine with the Montreal mob wanted to get involved in that racket, and supposedly there was, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000 worth of cocaine that was in a warehouse, and it was sitting there for 3 days. And then when the guy goes to pick it up, the cops are there, and so they're busted. And apparently that's what the beef was that caused him to get killed. So, what do you know about the Dino Bravo story? I know that's just a little bit before your time, but what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I watched Dino Bravo as a fan. I was
Yeah.
there. I was there at WrestleMania 3 when he
Oh
was.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember him setting the world bench press record. That was a big part of
Hmm.
my childhood and my generation.
Yeah.
You covered pretty much everything that I know. The only thing I can add to that, did you know that Vito Catroni was also a professional wrestler?
Yeah, I had heard when he was younger, like I don't know, maybe 1920, that he wrestled professionally, but I'm not sure who he wrestled. What because that must have been in the shoot the 30s, the 20s, something like that.
I think maybe he got into the promoting end of it.
Okay.
Maybe like maybe wrestled and then started like promoting the shows, and
Yeah.
so that's another interesting piece of history. But yeah, I don't think I met Dino because, like you said, that was before my time.
Yeah.
If I did meet him, I might have high fived him on the way to the ring as a fan. But I did like him as a
Yeah.
fan, and I hear the wrestlers from that area, the French Canadian guys like Jacques Rougeau and all the
Hmm.
guys. I always ask guys about that, if they have any information that isn't already out there, and that seems to be pretty much the whole story. He was at his house, so they say it must have been someone he knew. He must have been
Yeah.
comfortable, but that's Yeah, that's what they speculate because of the way the shots were at his back and no sign of a break in, so I don't even know
Yeah.
if that makes all that fact, but
Well, and they're saying he had the remote control in his hand, and normally if someone was in front of you, they said you would tense up or something, but he was relaxed, and it's like he left the guy in, and the guy, I don't know, had to go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen or something, and then comes back, and I don't even think he knew what happened, but gets shot in the head 11 times or something crazy like that, you know?
yeah, well, if you had to pick a way to go, I mean, I don't like that his daughter was in the next room or whatever,
No.
but if taking one or two to the back of the head and not even knowing what happened might be kind of high up there on the list if you had to choose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
It's the same though, yeah.
But he lived a lifestyle, I know that he had drove flashy cars, did all that, and when he wasn't able to continue, my understanding is he told some of the other wrestlers that he didn't want to do this, but he said he could always make money in organized crime, and but he didn't want to do that, and he wanted to continue, but Vince didn't see where he could be part of, I guess, WWE, and this was
Yeah,
like 92, 93, I believe.
yeah, and I think Rizzuto was already the boss that would have
Yeah,
okayed or did that, right? So
yeah, Rizzuto was, yeah.
yeah, that's part of the business though, is like I said before, we're independent contractors, so
Hmm.
unless you got a 10-year unbreakable agreement, then you're always at risk of just being let go, so
Hmm.
when I signed with WWE, I signed a 3-year with options, but of
Hmm.
course there's clauses in there, so there was outages in there if deemed appropriate, but um I seen guys left and right just get let go. And really, I would say, like, man, if you're not, how can you even argue about your value in this industry if you don't know for a fact that you are selling tickets? You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah.
Because that's really what the business is about. And if you're just filling a spot on the card, that's necessary too. But is that person going to have as much value as The Rock, who everyone's buying a ticket to go and see,
Hmm.
and not? So some guys are replaceable. I always tried to be not replaceable. That was always a goal by being one of a kind. Also, was I was trying to not. I was figuring, like they can't replace me. They can get rid of me and put someone else there that's not going to be me or anywhere
Hmm.
near me. But I did as much as I could to try to not. But at the same time, while I was in WWE, there was never a time where they didn't make me feel, at least somewhat expendable. Like
Mm,
every year, especially like after WrestleMania, they do a bunch of cuts
yeah.
and, and then the wrestlers and the fans are so shocked. Oh my God, they let so and so go. Can you believe that? And yes, I've been in the business long enough. I believe all of it. If you think that they'll never get rid of you, then, put your ego in check because everybody is expendable when you compare in perspective how big the company is compared to you.
Yeah, and I guess part of it too is like it's there's always, I think there's a big what I would call a, I don't know what the word, but a gap. Let's say like you fortunately got to that upper echelon, where you were a champion, uh you were one of the top. In fact, you might have been the top marketing wrestler for a period of 6 or 7 years, and so you've got the guys at the bottom. Let's say they're making 200,000 a year, and you have a lot of them that do that. But then someone like Rock, he might have to, even with appearances. They'll say, "Oh, well, you have 7 appearances or whatever it is," but he might get a couple of million per appearance, and so. How do they determine value, right? So between the value of someone like Rock that comes in will be, maybe they consider it 50 times more than the regular person, but that may not even be the case. So how do they really determine all that?
Yeah, so there's a few factors that are thrown in.
Hmm.
One of them is definitely um, what that person exudes. In other words, if you see that person out there in the ring, are they really good, and do they have a good connection with the crowd? And the bottom line, it's always going to be about, will people believe in this guy enough to pay and buy
Hmm.
tickets to see him and buy his t-shirts and stuff like that.
That's probably how they could determine a lot of values through how many jerseys, how many T-shirts, how much merchandise of that particular guy that
Big
people are
part of it.
will.
Yet
Hmm.
another big part of it, which unfortunately is political, is their
Hmm.
agenda. So, even
Hmm.
if their agenda is, we're going to push this guy and we're going to keep pushing him until the people have no choice but to accept him, sometimes that happens and that takes the spot of somebody else. So there's a lot of nasty feelings sometimes when it gets political,
Yeah.
or you can be political, which if you know how to do the politics, you suck up to the right people, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all part of it too. But you're right, as independent contractors, though, it's all just in the agreement, So like, I'm there for the first time. I'm looking at this contract. Whatever I agree to is going to be written in that contract, and what they so a lot of wrestlers complain because they hear the idea of a union, they think it sounds great,
Mm-hmm.
and they hear the idea of being treated, being employees, and they think that
Hmm.
sounds great too. I love being an independent contractor because and they say, yeah, but they don't even have health insurance. Well, for me, every time I've gotten hurt in the ring, they've taken care of it, no problem. Knee
Right.
surgery was the worst one, but um, so I've never. But if you really want insurance in your deal as an independent contractor, you put that in. You say, this is a deal breaker. I want you to provide me with some kind of group PPO, whatever you got, insurance. It's just like a lot of the top wrestlers have their own buses. Not
Yeah.
everybody, not everybody can get a bus though, right? You know,
Right.
but you get that in the contract, and you say, you know what, I want the option if the flight's over, or if a flight if it's over 300 miles, or a drive if it's whatever they do. Sometimes if I'd rather have you send me the money instead of the plane ticket, and I'd rather spend it on the bus, and
Yeah.
everything you get, you just get it in your contract. I want so many shirts to come out a year or whatever, but wrestlers in general are athletes, and athletes in general aren't the best businessmen. That's why they have
Right.
agents and
Right.
managers. But I understand business to that extent, to where
Hmm.
I've always appreciated being an independent contractor, being in charge of not only what's in my agreement, but also what I do with my money, when it
Hmm.
comes in, and being able to allocate for expenses for business, or as opposed to the employer just taking the money out and giving you what's left. So
Right. That's a
I've
different thing too.
always been one to kind of be in a rare perspective as far as the wrestlers go.
Hmm.
I love being an independent contractor. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense. If you've got an entrepreneurial spirit, it's saying that you would rather have because you have a little more control over what you're doing. Plus, there can be some tax benefits of write-offs, that type of stuff, and um, because the thing is to me, and what I've learned, because I have my own business, I do project management. What I've learned is that there's no, even if you're an employee, you don't really have any sort of what I call any security. So why not do this on your own, and then you can make a little more money or have a little more control?
Yeah, I think it's been a blessing, and maybe it'll change someday, because 95 or more percent of the industry always seems to speak as if they would like to see it change that way. But I don't know. I feel like making a union in something like wrestling, first off, it's silly, because how much of the business are you going to cover? If you're
Mm,
just thinking WWE, then say that,
right.
because if there's Bobby Fulton's big time wrestling in Chillicothe, Ohio, a couple times a year. Are you going to
Mhm.
say the union should cover him? Should he have to get
Mhm.
insurance on his guys? And I think most people just think that everywhere is like WWE,
Mhm.
and not only is that not the case, but also I've always thought that people hang way too much responsibility on Vince's neck from
Mhm.
my perspective, like
Right.
all the lawsuits, from the
Mhm.
concussions and the drugs. And I always look at it this way, like I've had lots of concussions.
Yeah.
Uh, Nobody ever forced me to work when I was
Mhm.
hurt. I never even told anybody I had concussions. Why
Yeah.
would I jump on the bandwagon and try to get paid and blame them for
Mhm.
something I did? Why would I blame Vince for doing drugs, for doing steroids, for
Mhm.
anything that these wrestlers did before they even started working for WWF? But see, by me speaking like this, I'm almost like outing the outing, but I mean that is the way that most guys think. It's like class
Yeah.
action lawsuit, we're gonna get paid, throw my name on there. And I just think that I have too much integrity to even imagine how I could think that someone else is responsible for that stuff except for me.
Right. How
In
old
my
are you?
opinion.
How old are you?
50, I'm about to be 54. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought because I'll be 54 October 22nd.
Okay, you before me. Happy birthday.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Happy birthday to you. But the thing is, you take care of yourself. So you're 54. You're eating healthy. You work out. You've had knee surgery. You've had all that stuff that goes with the territory of being in wrestling. But you haven't resorted to drug use or marijuana. That's I don't put that in the category of what I'm talking about is the you know coke, all the hard drugs. But you're healthy and you're living life in a manner that you can get around and everything. So sometimes it's up to the individual to make choices, right?
Always. I mean, isn't that true pretty much 1,000% of the time with everything?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about individuals and the choices that we make that
Hmm.
that set the path that we go through in life.
Yeah.
I, I think that can't be overestimated how important what you said is. It's all about personal choices. Who you hang out with, whether you
Right.
turn left or right, whether you say yes or no. When you
Hmm.
really get down to it, some guys are really bad at making choices,
Yeah.
and some people are better. And I think that has a lot to do with the successfulness and wellness of a lot of my peers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It's
And
so.
by the way, I also have what could be considered a non-traditional stance when it comes to drugs, because
Right.
we grew up in with Nancy Reagan saying just say
Oh
no and
yeah.
all that crap, right? Well, I happen to stand behind my belief that drugs by themselves are not bad. Drugs
Right.
are good. Drugs
Right.
extend life. We
Hmm.
live longer because of drugs. Drugs fight diseases.
Right.
And then people say, well, they're only talking about street drugs. Well, what do you consider just a street drug? Because even fentanyl has a medical use, and they give it to
Right.
you when you're in
Right.
the ambulance. But it sounds
Yeah.
horrible. I hate when I hear about it. But
Hmm.
but I think if you're really looking at it from an intelligent perspective, you have to admit that use is good or one thing, and abuse is bad another
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
And
Yeah, and
and
there's more problems with prescription drugs of the abuse than on even illegal drugs. If you look
even
at the
that, yeah, and
statistics.
even that, I don't think makes drugs bad any more than
No.
guns are bad. Or is a
Right.
gun
Right.
bad if it's sitting in a drawer? Is that gun
Yeah.
evil?
Right.
It's
Right.
the person that decides. And most people that use drugs regularly don't have issues, dependency
Right.
issues and stuff. It's a
Right.
minority of the people, but the bigger all the plans and the agenda is based around a small group of people, and that's the way it is often in life. But I like to think about it, and I encourage other people to think about that too.
Oh, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, and you kind of take a libertarian approach to a lot of that. But I could tell by where you believe in choice, right? You make the
Yeah,
choice for your life.
absolutely.
That's good. That's very good. So before we close, I want to talk. You're doing some pretty cool stuff. I'd love for the folks to know what you're working on because you're launching a website, launching a pretty cool product. So could you let people know about what you're working on?
Absolutely. So this project I've been working on for quite a while with some other people, and it's called Only Wrestlers. And there's a lot of different moving parts to it, and it can be confusing. But I like to explain it into two different phases. Let's say so. Phase one, it's a platform where fans can sign up and follow their favorite wrestlers. Um, this website is open right now. You can sign up. Not only can you sign up for free and get 30 days free, also anybody that you refer to sign up, you get a 5% referral, which means 5% of everything they spend for a whole year. So we got some incentives to try to get some numbers up, get people to spread the word. Same thing with creators, which are the wrestlers. They have referrals to get other wrestlers as well. If I haven't reached out to you and you're a wrestler, consider this an invite to open up a creators profile at onlywrestlers.com. And then there's other ways that creators can make money too. Like there's tips like on some of these chats and the special requests. But in the other phase, the fans that all follow become an association with us. And so we build this association together, Only Wrestlers Association. And the agenda is to grow together. So the followers are going to be able to vote on things that move the OWA forward. And as the numbers grow, so does their voting power. So starting out, we're going to be voting on some small stuff like should we let other people on this platform or only wrestlers, or what do you think about the graphics on the website? But we're going to get to the point where we're running actual wrestling shows, and the fans are going to be helping us bring the talent there. Who's going to wrestle who, what town do we come to? The ideas even grow from there, but it has to happen really organically.
Yeah.
So it's agenda driven, but if you think about it, following your favorite wrestlers, at least with that part, it's more simple to understand. And the followers, they have a loyalty program where everything they spend on subscription goes towards points, discounts on merchandise. We're brand new. We want to grow with the input, and that's what's going to make us different. So everyone that can go there, let us know what you think about it. There's a suggestion box, but sign up. Myself and my wife, Katie Forbes, we're going to be free always to follow because we're part owners of it. So you can follow us. We're still learning to use it ourselves a little bit right now and still making little tweaks and stuff, but it's something that's a lot of fun, and that's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, and I took a look at it, and what I like about it is that it allows, especially, let's say you're a fan of wrestling or a wrestler, is that you can. It's really a platform that connects a fan with the wrestler, and that's something that we have an opportunity today to have that we didn't have the opportunity before. So in the past, the way you would meet a wrestler, you have to either go to a match or you would go to a road show or something like that. But now you have a way to do it, through using technology, and it brings fans and wrestlers together.
Yeah, and so all the wrestlers that we get on our roster that are creators are
Hmm.
also wrestlers that we'll be booking when we do live wrestling shows. Some of them that don't wrestle for whatever reason that just do appearances, they will still be part of the roster. So when fans vote like on who to bring in and stuff like that. When we reach that level, then everyone will be game, So I really want to get 10 times as many wrestlers aboard and 10 times as many fans and keep going from there. So
You have a
check it
good
out.
lineup already,
Thank
of wrestlers
only
to sign up.
wrestlers, onlywrestlers.com. Follow me and Katie. It's free. Let us know what you think about the site and tell everyone you know.
No, I appreciate that, Rob. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we close
No,
the
I
thing?
think I really I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
I geek out on mafia history all
Hmm.
the time, and out here, you know, Casino is probably my favorite movie,
Yeah.
and yeah, and to me, it's like the Goodfellas of the West Coast.
Hmm.
Pretty much, right? And then
Yeah.
and of course that whole information, Michael Franzese was actually doing a stage show when I first moved out here, like a musical,
Oh,
and
right.
I met him through there where he
Hmm.
because but anyway, the town celebrates mafiaism. Oscar
Hmm.
Goodman was our mayor for the full. He maxed out his full, however many years it was that he could do. 5 years, it seems like, but whatever it
Yeah.
was. And then his wife then took over, and it's
Yeah.
like he defended all the mobsters. So there's an area though that isn't touched on enough in history. But I've been
Hmm.
seeing it pop up lately. But I would love for someone to do a book slash movie about after Tony Spilotro was killed in '86, because the strip
Yeah.
club Crazy Horse 2,
Hmm.
Tony Paradise, Albanese, who was
Yeah.
the head that was found in the desert in the movie,
Right. Right.
and yeah, Godfather, who is another wrestler who lives
Hmm.
here, is a friend of mine. He worked there during that time. He was one of the
Oh,
bouncers.
wow. Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean yeah, Joy, was it Velasco? No, um, shoot, he calls him Joey V, but the guy that was
Yeah.
the
Oh,
cop,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he worked there along with Lombardo's brother. And
Hmm.
anyway, I was in there several times because my friend DJ'd there, but I wasn't into the mafia stuff at
Yeah.
the time.
Back
So
then.
now,
Yeah.
now I kick myself in the ass because I remember him telling me that his boss, who was Rick Rizzolo, but I didn't know back then who that was, but he said that his boss in his office had a chair that allegedly Al Capone got his hair cut in. It was like the chair, his barber's chair. And I
Hmm.
just thought, well, that's kind of interesting but weird. But now I want to go back and ask a million questions because that's one of my Buffalo Jim. I knew him.
Hmm.
The the whole wrestling community knew him, But so that's like a great, that'd be a great sequel, I think, to
Yeah.
some. And now that Lake Mead is descending from the loss of water and the bodies are
Yeah.
turning up,
Isn't
that's
that crazy?
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll learn something about some of the corpses that show up or something. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I'm at the Real RVD everywhere, and I do a lot more signings and appearances than wrestling lately. But whatever I'm doing, I try to put it up at robvandam.com when I have notice. I was on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. They gave me a 2-day notice, and AEW does that sometimes too.
Yeah.
But when I'm scheduled, you'll see it up there under appearances at
Okay.
robvandam.com. And thanks for helping me get the word out.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on here, and folks, I encourage you to go visit the onlywrestlers.com. As you can see on the screen, you'll see Rob's contact information and everything, and so it was really a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll come back soon.
Awesome. Right on. Thanks, James.
All right, thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Awesome. Same to you.
All right, thanks.